I had a tough time finding weed, but I could find a fucking key of coke in a half a minute. Why would the cartel kill their customer? Most of the time it was the same person, depending upon what we were buying. If we were buying meth, it was one human being. If we were buying coke, it was another human being. If we were buying ecstasy, it was another human being. And they were all in the cartel.
Welcome back to the Alex Witherow Show. Today I have a very interesting guest. He used to run operations in Southern California for the Mexican cartels back in the 90s and 2000s. Sid Berman, great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Alex. Appreciate it.
So we have a lot to talk about today. Your history is super fascinating to me. When we were introduced, and I was told that you ran operations for the Mexican cartels. I was like, I have to talk to this guy. So I think the most obvious thing initially is you're not Mexican. And so obviously they clearly hire white guys.
What's a Jewish guy doing working with the Mexican cartel?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a lot of questions I want to ask you. Let's take this from the top.
Sure.
How did you get involved with these guys in Southern California?
Drug dealers and strippers go together like peanut butter and jelly, pretty much.
Yeah.
Hanging out at strip joints, was doing my own thing. Basically, I was shipping massive quantities of weed from Southern California back to the Maryland area where I grew up, just outside of D.C. And, I loved the movie Scarface, loved Goodfellas, loved gangster movies, and could probably sit there and when I was partaking in some of Colombia's finest, I would probably start reciting gangster lines, movie lines.
Right.
One of my good friends out there had one of his another friend come down from San Francisco. We were out, went to a few clubs, went to a few strip clubs, and went back to my house with a bunch of ladies, and it's 3:00 in the morning, and I'm sitting there doing movie lines, and I am 21 years old.
Okay.
This guy's in his early 30s, I want to say, and he's just like, who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
And gets to talking, figures out what I've been doing, what I'm up to, and we just kind of became friends. There was a group of us, it was more of a crew, and this guy was he was a money guy.
Yeah.
He had distribution in Alaska, Hawaii, Colorado, California.
And you were doing marijuana.
I had just moved out to Southern California. Yeah, I had done some other things,
This was pretty new in California in the 90s, right?
The turning meth into ice was brand new.
Yeah.
When you think about Breaking Bad and the blue, whatever they called it, it wasn't blue back then. It was, you were taking biker meth or whatever crystal meth was there at the time. And it would normally take about 2 pounds of meth to make 1 pound of ice. And it took a mechanic. It took somebody who knew how to cook it properly.
Right.
And my job was to get the raw materials.
Okay.
The girl I was dating, her ex-boyfriend was a mechanic, and he had a partner.
So when you say mechanic, you mean someone who can cook
Someone who
meth.
can cook drugs.
Yeah.
And basically, my buddy Lance, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us. He was murdered. He was like, Sid, I need you to get close to these guys.
Okay.
And I'm like, this guy hates me. I basically just took his girlfriend from him. How do you want me to get close to him? He's like, find a way. And so I did. And that began a buying 5 to 10 pounds of meth at a time to 20 pounds of meth. Got you very close to the Mexican cartel.
Okay.
And pretty quickly.
So how did they approach you initially?
It was basically the person that we were getting it from.
Okay.
They were the ones that were one step away from it.
Right.
And so as you start...
So basically any major drug flow in California in the 90s...
is going through the Mexican.
Is going through the cartel.
100%.
Gotcha.
100%.
Okay.
And so when you start buying, like I said, 20 pounds of meth, give me 5 keys of coke, take 100 pounds of weed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which avenue you start going into.
So they've been in business a long time.
Oh, yeah.
How far back do they go in California?
MA was the Mexican mafia in Arizona, which I lived in Arizona before I moved to California. So you're talking about...
This could be 60s, 70s?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. And so you get connected to them, and I mean, what kind of relationship did you form with them? And did they? I mean, was this purely just a moving drugs type thing with them?
The two crews, the one, us being the buyers and the retail distributors, and the crew that were the cooks, we were very close.
Yeah.
Inseparable. It was, there was a lot of trust between us, but we really just associated with ourselves, because it didn't matter what, it's funny, people talk about, bottle service down in Miami in the early 2000s, let's say. Back in the early 90s, there was no bottle service.
Right.
It was, we'd go to a nightclub and be like, I want the entire VIP room. And they're like, we don't do that. And I'm like, I'll buy a case of Cristal. And they're like, you'll spend $10,000, $15,000. And I'm like, yeah, but I want the whole room. And the manager would be like, okay, no big deal,
Right.
And so you've got, it was we had a guy we had a Croatian guy that was in his 50s. You've got, Lance in his 30s. You've got me and one of my buddies who's a former college football player, 6'5", 350 pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, this crew does not match. It's like, where do these guys fit in?
But they probably like that you guys just didn't look like
it drove women nuts. They're like, we just don't get why you guys are all together. And it's like, then we're not going to tell you either.
Yeah, so you wouldn't tell anyone what you guys were doing.
No.
Right.
We didn't do anything in Southern California. We purchased. Mm-hmm. We didn't sell. And it was nuts. I flew a buddy of mine that I grew up with.
So you purchased from the cartel?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the mechanics would work it.
Right.
We'd package it. And then people would fly it out to different states.
Okay. So this was like almost a distribution center.
Correct.
So, I mean, if I'm hearing this, I'm wondering, like, in the 90s, what kind of money are you guys making doing this?
We're doing about $1 million a week.
$1 million a week?
Yeah.
As a group?
As a group.
So your personal cut, what are you pulling a week?
Probably about 15, 20 grand a week.
20 grand a week?
Yeah.
Dang. That is. And in the 90s?
In the 90s.
I mean, that'd be ridiculous now.
At 20 years old. 21 years old.
Yeah.
So just spending it.
Yeah, you're like, of course, bottle service.
Shopping, Harleys, cars, whatever.
Right,
vacations. Right. We didn't care.
Yeah.
Strip joints.
Yeah. You guys are just going, and you're doing this all together, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'll put it this way. It was set up as an organization. You had the CEO, which was Lance. You had a comptroller, which was my buddy Ali. We'll just call me head of marketing, essentially, right. And marketing and sales. And then you had flyers, essentially.
What are flyers? The
guys would put, pack a suitcase with 10 pounds of ice. These guys were nuts. They would, it was funny. I needed somebody I could trust, somebody that had stones. And so I called up a buddy of mine from back east. I'm like, dude, you got to move out to California.
Yeah.
And my buddy Cisco, it's funny, the first night he gets out there, he's just like, I've got like an ounce of blow sitting on the table. And we're pre-partying, we're getting ready to go out. And a couple girls come by the house. And I was like, let's go. And he's like, no. It's like, I'll be right here when you get back.
Yeah.
And he was there. Half the fucking pile was gone, but he was there. He just sat there and partied the whole time. What Cisco would do was he would take a key of Coke, stick it on the front of his sweatpants, take a key of Coke, stick it in the back, take a suitcase with 5 pounds of ice, and fly.
Yeah.
Drop off the product, and somebody else would fly the money back in.
When you say fly, do you mean literally fly?
I'm flying commercial. We're talking about commercial airlines before.
Yeah.
Okay. TSA
so
and
this begs the question: was there government collaboration with this?
No.
So the feds didn't know about this?
No.
What about the state government? Did California state turn a blind eye to this?
What brought this to an end, so there was a joint task force between the California Department of Justice and the FBI.
Okay. And this was in the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was indicted by Robert Mueller.
Right.
All right, who was the special prosecutor.
He's an old hand in the FBI.
He's an old hand in the FBI,
Yeah.
but he was the district attorney of the Northern District of California at the time.
Okay. Yeah, he's been around forever.
So
in the DOJ.
Yeah. So there were a lot of shenanigans in terms of the confidential informant the FBI. The reason why Lance ended up getting murdered was because there was a dirty informant, essentially. The FBI was doing some shady shit. And that joint task force between the Department of Justice and the FBI was shut down after this.
So they were infiltrating you guys through illegal means.
Correct.
And so they basically, the feds shut it down because they were doing that.
That joint task force got shut down.
Right.
The detectives and everybody that were involved retired early, whatever.
Under Robert Mueller's tutelage.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct.
I would say he's somewhat known for shady tactics.
I would imagine. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like over the years, it's kind
of interesting that it seems to be a pattern here.
There's another pattern of being indicted with 7 counts that each have a mandatory minimum of 10 years, and so it's like, you can beat these 6. But you're not going to get off on this 7th one.
Yeah. I think it might have been him that was originally famously quoted saying, I can convict you for eating a ham sandwich.
Something like that. Something like that. You know.
I think that was actually his quote. So, yeah.
I met him. I had a disposition with him. My roommate in Maryland, where I grew up, his father was a appellate court judge. Mm-hmm. And so Mueller was in town, and I remember meeting him in D.C. And I was just like, so you were at an event with this judge last night? He's like, how the fuck do you know that? Mm-hmm. I'm like, his son is my roommate. And it was basically, how did I get caught up like that?
Yeah.
And how did I get caught up in all this shit?
Yeah.
And you know, you brought up the Mexican cartel, and I hate to, it's funny, sometimes when I tell the story, it sounds like I'm glorifying what I did.
Right.
And by no means do I want to make it sad. It was extremely fucking fun. It was amazing when it was great.
Right. That's usually how crime goes.
The scary parts, the parts that, you know, where you know, you walk into an apartment in Long Beach, California, and 4 vatos stick their guns out on the table, and you're 21 years old. That's not fun. That scares the shit out of people.
So that's the, I guess, the interaction with the cartel.
Those types of things, you know, it's kind of like, all right, how did I end up here? But
what was it like working with them? I mean, I feel like that is an organization that's probably one of the most lethal in the world.
You know, so it's funny, when I was telling you I lost 2 buddies that were both murdered in the same year. It's a Griselda, her son, in one of his interviews, I'm watching this, and he's talking about how the Colombian cartel were the ones that started bringing cocaine into Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And there was
they pushed the East Coast
They pushed the East Coast hard.
Yeah.
And Rayful Edmonds was the head of all drug trafficking in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
I had a buddy of mine, same kind of older guy. Somehow we meet at a nightclub. We hit it off. We get along. It's like, who's this kid? He's a trustworthy kid. He's got balls. I like him. We hang out. We become friends. And then they pull me into their crew. And I would watch this guy get a kilo of coke, start chopping it up, turn it into a key and a half, and I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know, like, I'm just out of high school, didn't do any coke, just smoked a shitload of weed, buy my pounds of weed, sell it, break it off, have fun, whatever. And then I'm sitting there, and Rayful Edmonds' cousin comes in. I'm playing cards with them. My buddy comes in. They do their thing. In Scarface, which is like, you get the blow, you get the money, you get the power, you get the women, you have a good time.
Right.
You know,
first comes the money, then comes the power, then comes the women.
And so, let's just say in my late teens, early 20s, I was just chasing good-looking women all over the country.
Right. And you saw the money being
there's the easy
seductive
way to get it.
Yeah.
And then I come across, with Rayful getting Billy. And so the thing about Billy, there's no lily white guys going into the hood in D.C. and getting drugs. But Billy was Hawaiian. Billy was the great conduit. So he lived in white suburbia, just out of D.C.
He's Samoan. He kind of looked both. Yeah.
Correct.
Looked mixed. Yeah.
He could go in, grab what he needed to grab. Eventually they'd come to him.
Yeah.
I'd meet all these guys. I watched what they did. I saw how they did it.
So these were all the Colombians.
These are the Colombian cartels. This is the Rayful Edmonds and all the black guys in Washington D.C. that were getting it from the Colombians.
Okay.
And there was that's a Kevin Bacon type of 6 degrees of separation. There was no interaction with the Colombian cartel.
Yeah.
Other than me finding out years later that it was the Colombian cartel that was feeding Rafe Edmonds, and Rafe Edmonds was getting it directly.
So you had no interaction with it, but you learned a lot about their system.
And I learned about the drug trade from Billy.
Yeah, and you brought it to Southern California.
Correct.
Gotcha. Interesting. And then you guys started moving it through the Mexican cartel.
Correct. Well, we started buying it was, and again, it's kind of when you start buying a lot of weight and you're paying cash for things, not, and listen, it's a fascinating industry in the sense that it's like, I'll pay for 10 in cash. And they're like, well, great, I'll give you an extra 10 and I'll float it to you.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, so you give me 20 for the price of 10 and I just got to pay you when I recoup everything. They're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
No worries. Let's do it.
I bet that's a interesting game to play.
It's, you want to talk about stress,
Is that when the Vatos came in?
Yeah, no, we always were able to pay them, man. Everybody was always able to pay. So
how did what gets your friends killed in this game?
When people get caught.
By whom?
That business in terms of informants.
So the feds are running informants on this quite a bit.
Yeah, and listen, because of going through the system, court documents, seeing what actually happens in discovery when you start fighting things. What happened, what you think is happening originally is not what ends up happening. Like one of the guys that flies, him and this girl, and the girl was actually, she was probably the closest to the cartel because she was the one who could get the most weight. She grew up in Southern California. She'd been in the game forever. And so they're flying 10 pounds of smokable meth from, I think they're flying out of San Fran, and they're going to Hawaii.
I mean, how is this clearing the airlines? Commercially, there's like no scanners.
No scanners.
Okay.
Nothing. Wear a sweatsuit, put it in the front, put it in the back, put it in a suitcase, carry on, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, no, not the carry on. When you were carrying that kind of weight, you just checked your bag.
Okay.
So now, the only reason why they got caught is they got tipped off.
Right.
So my buddy Lance was, and we didn't know this at the time, Lance was working both sides. Lance had gotten popped for something before I ever met him. He was working with the feds or the local police, essentially. Him and his roommate, kid that he grew up with. And not to get too into the weeds, but basically his roommate dropped out, like his roommate to get himself out. He basically called in, said, look, there's 10 pounds of ice going to Hawaii. And so the people that got busted, it was one person from our crew, one person from the cook's crew.
So they would arrest them off the plane.
Oh, yeah, the minute they got off the plane, they went and grabbed their bag. They snagged them. They went away for years.
Yeah.
Years.
Yeah. The drugs in those days was not a good look.
No.
This was right after Reagan's war on drugs.
Correct.
So they were very, I would say, enthusiastic about.
There were mandatory minimums. These were federal charges.
Right. And did the 3 strikes laws pass in California at that point? It was
passed.
Yeah, that was like in the 90s, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you kind of?
I had no strikes at the time.
Okay. So I was gonna say, are you touching that?
No, but some of the guys that I was with were.
Yeah.
And so no, Lance had done. I think he did 5 or 6 years in San Quentin.
Right. I grew up like 20 minutes north of San Quentin.
We had a great time. Listen, he would come down to LA. We would do what we would do. We'd go shopping. We'd go clubbing. Shit, we would make his brother worked at a vet office. And so it's like we'd go visit his brother up in LA, and ketamine was his thing. And Special K, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would come in, give me those vials, pour them in the Pyrex dish, bake them up. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to mess around with, and I watched enough people make drugs that I could do it as an amateur. But really, my job was to facilitate things.
Yeah.
I was able to get close with people. People trusted me. People liked me. And I was a fun guy. I was a fun club party guy.
Right.
And I put a lot of people together.
Did you have any contact? Did you work closely with anyone from the cartel in Mexico?
No, never went into Mexico.
Okay.
All right.
So basically, you had some contact bringing.
I had I'll put it so the person who was in the cartel would meet me and their contact. I would have the cash. The contact was the one that knew them.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it was the same person, depending upon what we were buying.
Okay.
If we were buying meth, it was one human being. If we were buying coke, it was another human being. If we were buying ecstasy, it was another human being. But and they were all in the cartel.
Now, you mentioned that you guys moved weapons some.
A little bit.
Tell me about that type of
I
thing.
mean, it was a few times where Lance was like, I need guns. And I would go to the cooks and be like, hey, I was just like, I want Glocks and, 9mm, whatever.
Nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy.
No special cannons.
No special cannons.
50 calibers.
Trying to get some silencers for him. Couldn't do it,
Yeah.
And
but it was kind of hard to. California's never been an easy place to get a gun, really.
it wasn't hard for us to get them.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It just wasn't something I was trying to do very often.
Because and it's gotten, I think, tougher over the last few decades. But back in those days, I mean, I feel like in California, you really only had a gun unless if you were like hunting. Other than that, not really. It's not culturally there. It's not normal to like have a gun. Whereas
Right.
like when I lived in Texas, like everyone had 5 guns.
and in Arizona, it's an open carry state.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
one of the first things I got when I got to Arizona.
Exactly. I mean, just state by state, culturally, it's so different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, so like this wasn't like a super lucrative thing.
No, somebody needed them for some reason. I didn't. I was not in the business of asking a lot of questions.
Yeah.
It's
Probably better.
probably better. It's like, Sid, go get me this. I'm just like, all right, hey, how much is this? It's like, it's going to cost you $1,000. Great. Here's the $1,000.
yeah.
Go get me these guns. Or 5,000 or whatever.
What was the border situation like back then? In terms of, I mean, over the last 5 years, we've had a pretty open border in the U.S. There's been a lot of talk about the cartel has like basically annexed that area and parts of Arizona. I mean, was this kind of like way before your time, or were you way before this time?
I think I was way before this time. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I remember in Arizona, in Arizona, that was straight up Mexican Miami. You'd go to this little hovel in, South Phoenix that the guy would go in his backyard. You walk in, everything was all very Catholic, small little, probably 800 square foot house.
Right.
Jesus things all over the place. And then the guy would go in his backyard, open up some latch from the ground, and here's your 100-pound bale of weed.
Yeah.
And he barely spoke English.
Right.
But we weren't paying for it at the time. He's just like, here, take it. I'll see you in a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then it was ship it back east, have our friends fly it out. No, the hardest part was to figure out where the hell we were going to send it.
Right.
Eventually, one of our friends was managing like a mailbox, etc. And instead of shipping it to people's homes, we just set that up.
What do you think about, since you've been mostly in the drug business, obviously in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of different drugs being laced with fentanyl. Like, I mean, I would imagine you have an opinion on that, given that this used to be your line of work. I mean, I would think if from your standpoint, this would be if you're a modern day drug pusher or moving drugs around and potentially this stuff's laced with fentanyl and people are dying, this would probably be bad for business.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an opinion on it. I've had this discussion numerous times with buddies that know my past. Wow, you're going to get me going into a tangent on this, but I'm happy to entertain it. So
we cover everything here.
Yeah, man. If you look what the opium trade back in China, and I believe it was in the 1800s, something like that.
Yep.
I think that their war on us is in retribution for that.
Oh, interesting.
They look at, even though it was Great Britain.
They don't forget stuff very
Great
easily.
Britain that did it. They've got a 100-year plan to overtake us. And if why? So you ask yourself, why would the cartel kill their customer?
Yeah.
All right. And if you go, all right, well, let's look at.
So you're saying that the Chinese are working with the cartel?
100%.
Okay.
Well, if you can't get the precursors and that
was actually going to be my next question, because
Yeah.
I suspected there was collaboration between the Chinese government.
And I'm
the
not
cartel.
saying it's going to happen ongoing, because once you teach the cartel how to do something, their loyalty is to themselves. It's not like they're going to be like, all right, we'll keep getting it from you. If we can figure out how to make the precursors ourselves, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But essentially, if you looked on a on a growth chart, if you're looking at a P&L sheet, and you said, listen, you normally make X every year from your drug trade. We're going to give you 10X over the next several years if you lace it with this. It's like, but we're going to kill our customers. It's like, not really, because more and more people are getting addicted every day. Even if you kill some people off, it's ironic how hardcore IV drug users, crackheads, or people that are smoking, that stuff, you would think it would scare them off. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, man, this guy just OD'd from this.
Yeah, but one of my oldest friends just died from fentanyl.
Well, but did they know? He
didn't know.
He didn't know.
Right.
I'm talking about the ones that actually know.
Yeah.
And they would swarm to it instead of run from it. And so it's killing all the things that are laced with it. It's horrible. The kids that think they're taking a Xanax or think they're taking an Adderall or think they're taking something like that, and it's laced. That's absolutely horrible. And it's crazy. Like after I got in trouble, after I got indicted, so when I told you I was living in Huntington Beach, and this is when the UFC first started. Mm-hmm. And so some of our friends ended up fighting in UFC 1, 2, 3 at the very, very beginning of it. We started training, and as you can see, I am not a heavyweight. And I did wrestle growing up. And so once I got indicted and I moved back east, I started training. Started training in Muay Thai, started training jiu-jitsu, started training in shoot fighting and Sambo.
What inspired the training?
I thought I was going to prison, man.
I was going to say.
Yeah, oh, hell yeah.
That was actually going to be my thought, was that you thought you were going to prison. So.
Oh, yeah. I knew I was going to prison.
Yeah.
And
how much time did you do?
A little less than a year.
Oh, that's not crazy.
Yeah. So, you brought up the 3 strikes thing. There were 14 of us that were indicted, and everybody kept getting in trouble.
Yeah.
More in trouble. Would go in 6 months, come out, get in trouble again.
Right.
I kept my nose clean.
So you got busted one time and you're like, I'm done.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Went to...
Is it hard to get out of this game? I mean, is it kind of like blood in, blood out?
It's an addictive lifestyle. It's not that it's glamorous, but when the movies that I mentioned, they do glamorize it.
Right.
And there is something attractive about a movie star with muscle, essentially, like they say in Goodfellas. Yeah. And so when, doesn't matter where you go, doesn't matter, and for me, whether I lived where I grew up in DC, whether I moved to Arizona, whether I lived in California, I'm a magnet for the same type. It's not them, it's me. Mm-hmm. It was me. I'm the problem.
Right.
Because I attracted the same exact people. I moved to Florida, and I would say that I had a tough time finding weed, but I could find a fucking key of coke in a half a minute.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just, bam.
Right, right.
And so that part is, it's just one cycle after the next cycle of doing the same type of things. And so, is blood in, blood out? I would say for most people it is.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to get too deep into this, but yeah, even after getting off of probation and finally being free and clear of it and knowing everything that I put my family through and put myself through. So understand that I was from the day I was indicted until I finished my sentencing was over 10 years.
Okay.
And so I'm sitting.
And you only did a little under a year of prison time.
Yeah.
How was prison? I feel like even a year feels like a long time.
Lance would say everybody should go for at least a year.
It's like living in New York. Yeah. You should live in New York at least a year.
At least 1 year. When you say you have a drug problem, you could do the program. You get out in a shortened period of time. You go live in a halfway house.
Right.
And camps are different than being if you have a short time. That's a hell of a lot different than when you're in there for over a year. Knowing that mine was a short stint.
So you probably wanted to just keep your head low.
I just wanted to keep my head low.
Yeah. Were you threatened regularly?
Nah. I got along with people, man.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
I think it's a little, we had a prison chaplain on this show, and he said, yeah, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Correct.
Yeah.
And back then too, listen, I'm a Jewish white guy. When I was training, that's all I thought about was, it's like what motivated you to get up and run 5 miles every day and go and compete in MMA tournaments and things of that nature. It's like, I thought I was going to prison.
Yeah.
I thought I didn't know how long I was going to go away for. I remember the line that I plagiarized from Shawshank Redemption in front of the judge to, it's like, you have anything to say for yourself? And I'm like, I do. And it was basically, it's like, it's like, I wish I could go back and talk to that 20-year-old kid and tell him what shake him, tell him what he's doing wrong. I go, but I can't. I'm 30 something years old now. And, all I can do is say that I'm sorry, and I wish I'd never gotten involved with all that.
Yeah.
Now, in saying all of that, again, what happens the minute I get off probation? Jump right back into it. Same shit.
Yeah.
And
the money, I would have suspected it's even better now.
It's just right back into it. And eventually, a very good friend of mine got sober. And it's like, I remember he got sober right before it was his birthday and we were supposed to party. And I'm just like, fuck, Yeah. And so I, after some bad shit personal wise, I guess, it's like, I guess for the first time in my life, I was like, you know what, I could use some help.
Yeah.
And I don't know if, and I've gone in and I've spoken to people in rooms, and it's like, listen, everybody's journey looks a little different. And in any way that I can be of service to anybody and help them, and so that they understand that.
Did this experience lead you to faith somehow?
I've always believed in God, but I never had a relationship with God.
Right.
Listen, I guess the way my mind works, my mind can race, and I know that that's not abnormal. I know a lot of people's do.
Right.
Get hyper fixated on things. I try to be the best human being. I try to look at I was one judgmental. I was a dick, man.
I mean, were you, how many years of prison were you up for originally?
I've had 7 counts, each with a mandatory minimum of 10 years.
Okay.
So I was facing 70 years.
70 years. I was going to say, I feel like, how did this get knocked down so much?
I pled to doing a year. I was going to do a year.
Did they ask you to give up the rest of the organization?
They'd already had everybody.
Okay.
It was basically the murder of our best friend, of Lance. It was just like, so what did you know about these guys? It's just like, and I was in Lance's apartment when the FBI kicked in the door. So when the guys got arrested in Hawaii, I was just like, shit. And so I came down to Florida, actually. I was in Wellington. A buddy of mine had a house there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm doing the same shit that I was doing out there. I'm doing it in Wellington. I did, just had somebody fly in. Here you go. I'll take care of some things. And then Lance was like, listen, come on out. He's like, everything's kind of cooled down a little bit. It's not as hot as it used to be. And I'm like, all right. And so I fly out to San Francisco. I'm at Lance's house. And Lance was going to pay this dirty informant off. It was basically for his old case that he didn't know his buddy had gotten basically them off by ratting these people out. Mm-hmm. And he was paying a confidential informant $150,000. He had the cash. He flies down to LA.
So they knew this guy was working for the feds.
Correct.
And they paid him to shut up.
They paid the dirty informant, basically said they could get rid of evidence. So whatever case
so the informant's playing both sides.
Correct.
Wow, interesting. This is a complicated game.
Well, the informant's not only playing both sides, but he claimed to be an FBI agent.
I would imagine that's a good way to get yourself killed.
So there's been a book that was written about it by the guy who pled guilty to the murder, who's probably still sitting in prison. And it's interesting because I read the book, and he gives his side of it. Mm-hmm. And they went into how Lance was actually killed. When I left California, I left everything. Yeah. I grabbed a bag and I'm out.
Were you fearful that you were going to get killed?
No, I just was more fearful that I was going to get busted.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So you really had the cartel really had no beef with you.
No. We were already removed from, so we were just buying product from them. The fact that our crew got busted with stuff.
They're kind of like, proceed at your own caution.
That's it.
Yeah. They kept it pretty simple.
Had we gotten busted with, let's say there was something that would have happened on the exchange between them and us.
Yeah.
That would have been a different story. But we had already taken their product, and it was a week out, 2 weeks out. We had already washed it, cleaned it. Yeah. And we're shipping out for our retail or our wholesale business. Getting it out.
Let me ask you something and just get your opinion on this. And this is obviously not a comfortable thing to talk about. There's been a lot of talk about human trafficking on the border with the cartel. I mean, do you think they're moving more into humans over drugs?
I sure as fuck hope not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just
I know. It's a whole other level.
it's a whole, yeah, but you know, it's interesting. I have had, going back to the fentanyl thing and I can only imagine what let's just say the price of a key 10 years ago or 5 years ago, prior to the last administration, was, let's say, $24,000 down here in South Florida. When the borders opened and 10 million people came flooding in,
Yeah.
God only knows what that thing dropped to. You know, it probably went down to 90s, 10,000.
You think so? You think the price of drugs dropped when the border was open?
Tremendously.
Why? Like why?
Because they flooded it. You could
Okay.
bring so much more in.
Oh, so the supply increased.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Gotcha.
You know.
Interesting. So the open border actually made drugs cheaper in the U.S.
Correct. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Wow.
You know.
Interesting.
It was coming in from every border, every place, whether it was coming up through into Miami.
And now it's on lockdown.
Now it's on lockdown.
So,
So you imagine the prices. I would imagine the
expensive.
prices going right back
Super
to the
expensive,
roof.
yeah.
Yep. Very similar to probably with Reagan, the
Yeah.
reference you made.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting.
And the fentanyl thing, they don't give a shit. They're just going to kill off their customers. They're going to make a ton of money
I don't understand why the cartel has any interest in that.
because they're going to make.
Are they getting paid by the Chinese to do
No,
it?
they're just going to make. They're getting more now. It's a short term play.
Okay.
So if your short term profits go up 10x, but you kill off, and let's just say you're going to kill off.
So they've run the numbers on this.
They've run the
obviously.
numbers on this, and the numbers look. This is in our favor. We're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And plus, something that I heard about fentanyl is that I didn't know: the high is much shorter, so that you keep coming back more and more and more and more.
Right. I've heard it's very addictive.
You know,
Very addictive.
And there's.
Yeah.
I feel bad for anybody that is going through that shit.
Yeah.
Addiction's a motherfucker, and you know, I did meet So I told you I did meet Muhammad Ali one time. I read something that it was basically, he goes, you know, if you have the same viewpoints at 50 that you do at 20, you've wasted 30 years of your life.
Probably.
And you know, when I was 20 and I was doing all that, the last thing I thought about was the federal government. It's like, just stay the fuck. All drugs should be legal. Leave us alone. Let us do whatever the fuck we want to do.
Well, I mean, Oregon's kind of taken that stance.
And look at Oregon.
Yeah.
I don't think the rest. I don't think I love me some Florida, man.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
You know, and I grew up in a very progressive liberal area.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, as someone who grew up in California, the state over the last 30 years has gone to shit.
It's gone to shit.
I mean, like that's not even up for debate. I mean, I knew what it was like in the 80s and 90s. It was amazing.
Correct.
And I lived out there in 2020 for 6 months in LA, and it was a mess.
Now Florida's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Very interesting. So I don't know if you can shed light on this, but I'm curious to know. So when El Chapo got arrested, how did that affect things, or was that a little after your time?
I think he was running the helm back when we were doing it.
Yeah.
But it's
He was probably the boss back then.
yeah. But
Yeah.
you know what? I think it's kind of like when you think of the mafia or something. The next guy is always up.
Yeah, next guy up. Yeah.
It's never going to miss a beat, you know, even, and I guess that's the thing now, like to go after the cartels or to what they're doing to the cartels, is it really going to stop it?
So I was going to ask you about that. So if there's been talk about the U.S. Classifying the cartel as a terrorist organization. So if they do that, they can legally send in special forces after them. Granted, they're going to have to do it on Mexican soil, which would be a little hairy from a, you know.
Yeah, but we did the same thing with Colombia.
Exactly.
And did that stop anything?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you just, again, you're taking and then you're getting into, was the CIA part of what was going on with
Well,
Escobar.
that's another thing. Is that
At least they were trying to control the cost, the volume, and so forth and so on.
Yeah. Plus, they take 10% off the top anyway.
You know.
So you think that it wouldn't really? It's very hard to get rid of the cartel.
I think the people in the United States love to have fun, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's The demand is the root of the problem, obviously.
And so can you fix that?
Who are your like most common types? What archetypes of clients or customers were usually your? I mean, was it like finance bros? Was it? I mean, there's not really many finance bros in Southern California. But who were you guys?
We were wholesale.
Yeah.
No. So
you were in the middle.
We were in the middle. We were just a middle guy.
Yeah. So you're moving it to the dealers.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And,
Gotcha.
And even like I said, when I came down here and jumped kind of both feet in for a little bit, it was, I'm just putting you two with, I'm not going to do the same thing I used to do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put you two together and just break me off something and I'm fine with it.
Right.
Just doing the same damn thing, man.
Yeah.
I guess that's the delusion in your mind that
right.
you're doing things differently, but it's the same.
Interesting. So I think that, I mean, I guess overall, I mean, did you regret the experience, or do you feel like it was like needed in your life?
I think it was needed. I don't regret it. I don't. I think that if what I used to look at as something as a liability. I mean, look, dude, I was in the fitness industry for 20 years of my adult life, where it's like half the day I'm trying to help people be healthy during, we'll call it daylight hours.
Yeah.
And in the evening, you want to feel good this way? Fine, let's do it that way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, my ability to share the fact that I've come over to the other side now, I hope it's an asset, not a liability.
Yeah.
It's tiring. I really wish I would have listened to my dad at a much younger age. It would have been a lot less of it would have been a much easier life.
What'd he say?
Just to be a good human being, do the right thing, be honest,
Yeah.
when you're doing shady shit, when you're getting fast money, when you're, look, so I got into a car accident in Arizona. When I was out there, I got a chunk of money, nothing crazy, maybe 100 and change. But this is, again, it's early 90s. I'm a young guy. And I get a chunk of, let's say, 25 grand, first chunk before I get things spaced out. The first thing I do is I drive down to San Diego, see a buddy of mine, and I buy like 10,000 hits of ecstasy, strap them to my legs, fly down to South Florida from California. Get rid of them, make money, get back out to California. Great, just did that. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Imagine if I would have taken that 25 grand and stuck it into an IRA back then.
Right.
Where would it be? You know, but you don't think about long term. Look, I don't think I think if you ask the guys that I grew up with, would I make it if you put the over under on my life at 50?
Yeah.
They all would have bet the under.
Yeah.
I just ran that hard. I partied that hard. I had a great time.
Right.
And, now.
Yeah. What are you doing now?
I am the director of marketing. I do digital marketing, lead gen.
For what kind of company?
Medical supply company.
Cool.
Yeah.
On the up and up.
On the up and up, man.
And you're working on a book.
I am.
Yeah. About your life.
Correct.
I guess, are you hoping to make it into a movie as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Watching some of the things like, whether it be Breaking Bad or some of the other series and documentaries over the time, I'm going, my story's just as good as that. If not better.
Well, and you kind of, your story, we've covered some drug stories on this show. Your story, I would say, fills in the gaps on what was happening on the West Coast with the cartel. Because when you talk about, there's a million movies out there about Pablo Escobar and the Colombian trade, and it's like okay, enough. Like, we get it. All know who Pablo Escobar is, but you don't hear much about the Mexican cartel as much.
It's funny, like, was it Narcos 2? It was Narcos 2 where they were growing weed in the desert?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was funny. So I'm watching Narcos 2, and I timed it back. So there was a year that it was just. It went from there was plenty of weed all over the country to there was nothing anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm going, and I remember I was selling weed at the time. And I'm just like, where'd the fuck all the weed go? Right. And then I watched Narcos 2, and I'm like, that's what the fuck happened. You know, it's like, so it's interesting how some of the movies and the stories that you see and all the stuff that's had some notoriety over the past, decade or whatnot. Right. And then I tie it back into what where I was at that time.
Right.
You know, and like I was telling you that I was indicted by Robert Mueller, and Robert Mueller was the special prosecutor for Trump, and and then our judge was this woman, Judge Ilston, who was Barry Bonds' judge. So it's just, I'm like,
small world.
It's just all fucked up shit, man. Like
small world.
You know, but it's interesting. So you'd ask like, how I did such a small amount of time, and it was the government allowed me to. I had to after I turned myself in. It was Yom Kippur is next week. It's Tuesday, and so in 1996, on the eve of Yom Kippur, the FBI called my mom up. And they're like, listen, your son's just been indicted. If he turns himself in, XYZ. If he doesn't turn himself in, we know he's in Florida, we're going to find him. And they're basically going to take me on a federal bus tour ride where I'm going to hit every federal penitentiary from Florida to California. It's going to take 6 months to find me. And so my mom's freaking out. And of course, I fly back to Maryland the next day. God bless my family. I come from, I'm very blessed. I think part of my leaving and going off and doing all the things I did was that so my family couldn't see or understand what I was doing. Let me get as far away so you have no idea what I'm doing. But one of my uncle's fraternity brothers was in the CIA. He's like, listen, he's like, here's the attorney you need in San Francisco.
Oh, interesting.
And so he beat us on this big heroin case. Go see this guy. I'm like, all right, you know. And and my mom and I flew out to California.
Well, that's a pretty impressive job by him to get you only a year of prison time for 70 years of counts.
Oh yeah, and he's his line to the judge at sentencing. He's like, you know, and I remember it as if it was yesterday. He's walking. He goes, "There's a woman walking down the beach, and she's picking up sand dollars and she's throwing them back in the ocean." And the guy comes up to her and he goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "It doesn't matter." And she goes, "It matters to this one." And I remember the prosecuting attorney, who it wasn't Bob Mueller anymore. He had moved on to the FBI. It was another guy who had moved up. He's like, "Your Honor, what is it?" You know, basically it was like hemming and hawing.
Yeah.
And then after he made that statement, he asked to lower a statute that lowered the mandatory minimum, which gave her some. She granted it, which gave her some latitude. And so yeah.
Wow, you got a real new lease on life after that.
You would think I'd learned my lesson. You would think that it would be like, okay, wow, I'm lucky as shit. And I actually, part of me is going, you know what? The lack of consequences probably is what allowed me to continue with.
Right.
You know.
Right.
You know, I got away with it.
Did any of your friends get locked away for a long time?
My buddy Cisco that flew out to California, he, after I told him to stop, he kept doing things, and he ended up getting 5 years.
Okay. So a little more, but nobody did like a life term or anything.
No, not from our crew.
Yeah.
The guys that, the whole crew that were the cooks and so forth that murdered. So I told you that Lance was murdered. It was a dirty FBI informant that he was going to pay off. And that dirty FBI informant was introduced to Lance by the cooks, the guys in the other crew. And so...
Do the cooks just kind of disappear when all this goes down, or do they bust them too?
They were the ones who killed Lance.
The cooks killed Lance?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
wow.
And they got...
There's no honor in a den of thieves, is there?
There's no honor amongst thieves. And they went away for a long time.
Yeah.
25 years, 20 years, 20 years, 25 years, something like that.
Interesting that the peddling drugs, it's pretty easy. It seems to be pretty easy to get off on a major sentence. Right, but obviously if you kill somebody, then...
First federal murder trial in San Francisco in like 20-something years.
Yeah.
You know, it's... The worst part was... It wasn't Lance. It was just. It's almost like with a drug dealer or a criminal's mentality. It's just like you killed the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, he should have died for ratting you guys out.
But they just wanted to kill somebody.
They just wanted to kill. It's like I can understand why you're going to kill the person who, you know, the guy from our crew and the girl from their crew that ended up that got caught in Hawaii and did like 5-6 years or something.
Yeah.
It was kind of retribution for that. And they thought it was from Lance, and it wasn't.
Interesting. Well, that's quite a story, man. When can we expect to see either your book or your movies?
Hopefully the book is done within the next few months.
Great.
And then if a publishing company wants to pick it up and turn it into a movie, it'll be going from there.
Interesting. Who would you want to play your story?
Wow. I don't know. I mean, I'm old now. You know, it's like I don't even know the name of the actors these days, but it would have to be some young guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Who do you think?
I don't know. A young Jewish kid.
So it's funny. I was at dinner last night, and my buddy's son. He's like, you don't look Jewish. So my mother was born in Morocco.
Okay.
So
you're half Jewish.
No, she's a Moroccan. Yeah, I'm a full Jew. But maybe I look Jewish. Maybe I don't. I don't know.
You look Jewish enough.
I look Jewish enough.
I mean, I don't look Jewish.
No. Are you?
No.
That's why you don't. I wouldn't have picked you out.
No, definitely not.
So, but no, man. You know what? Probably someone who thinks that he was a lot cooler than he was.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I can see that, you know, the allure of that life and obviously the money. Did they confiscate all your money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. They're like, you're not leaving with that. Mm-mm. Well, it's interesting because, you know, we just covered the John Roberts story on this show, and he had a bunch of cash in suitcases buried in his backyard. But unfortunately, he told one or two people about it, and so when he came back from prison,
his backyard was all dug up.
It was all dug up.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
No, they took everything. They took cars, Harleys, cash.
Yeah.
Everything.
So you had to start over when you were out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, that's quite a story, man. Thank you so much for your time. This has been really fascinating. Really appreciate your time going over all of this. We'll drop all your links in the description of this video. And good luck to you. And I'm glad to see that you're living life on the up and up in Florida now.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Alex.
All right. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
See ya.